And now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce the mayor of the city of Oxnard. Mayor Tim Flynn was elected to serve as mayor of Oxnard in November of 2012, 2 years after his election to council in 2010. He has served on the Oxnard City Council previously for 2004 to 2008. And Mr. Mayor, I welcome you to the stage.
Good afternoon, and I have Ashley Golden, the Assistant City Manager, and Chief Whitney that are going to join me. Let's give them a round of applause, can we please? And also I have my mom, Diane Flynn, with me, so I wouldn't be here without her. So today we have a different format, and that format is I'll do a brief introduction about our accomplishments over the past year here in the city of Oxnard, and then Ashley's going to talk to you a little bit about what we've done to retool and reformat our service permit center based on the feedback that we received not only from you, business people in the community, but our clients, and we're excited to talk about those developments. And then Chief Whitney, who has been the interim city manager for the past 6 months, and today is his last day as the interim city manager. Yahoo, he says. So he's really excited about that. Imagine being the police chief and the acting city manager at the same time. So very, very excited, and he'll be talking and sharing his experiences, the lessons learned in the 6 months that he's been the city manager. So why don't we go ahead and we're going to get started here, and let's just hope that this all works. So many of you know there are 5 members of the Oxnard City Council, and as of November there will be 7 members of the City Council because the city adopted councilmatic districts, and the mayor will still be elected at large. I didn't hear any of the city council members introduced. I don't know if they're here today, but Carmen Ramirez is the mayor pro tem, Brian McDonald, Bert Perillo, and Oscar Madrigal. Give them. Exciting news, the city of Oxnard, after a extensive search, a nationwide search, has hired the former assistant city manager of Riverside, California, a very, very intelligent, hardworking, dynamic leader. And his name is Alex Nguyen. Alex is not here today. He's going to be starting as the new city manager July 8th. So we're really excited about Alex. So what I'd like to do very quickly is just go over the top 10 accomplishments in this past year. As many of you know, Greg Nyhoff, the former city manager, left 6 months ago to become the city manager of Vallejo, California. And he had recommended to us that Chief Whitney serve as the interim city manager. Chief Whitney was selected unanimously by the city council, and he did a remarkable job. And Ashley, who is the planning director, was also asked by Chief Whitney to become the acting assistant city manager. And again, we have Jesus Nava, and he is the current assistant city manager. Ashley is the acting city manager, or assistant city manager, and she's also the planning director. So both of these public servants here have been doing 2 full-time jobs. I mean, imagine being the city manager, acting city manager, and the police chief. Imagine being the planning director, running the whole planning department, and being the assistant city manager. Let's give them another round of applause, please. So the good news about the city of Oxnard, and what you would like to hear as business leaders, is you want to know that Oxnard's finances are stable, Oxnard has a balanced budget, and Oxnard in many, many years has its first clean audit. And that means after years and years and years of unbalanced budgets, audits that were not clean, the city has restored its fiscal house in order, and I can't take credit for that. I'm one of 5 members of the city council, so it's the city council and it's our hardworking staff that got the job done. And so what you need to know walking away from here today is Oxnard in a good place financially? Oxnard, I would argue, is in the best place financially it's been in decades. Because, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that was uncovered over the last several years is that we had audits, but those audits were supposed to be clean audits, and in fact they weren't. We had budgets that were balanced, but they weren't. And so the fiscal house of Oxnard has been restored. Second, the wastewater system. Wastewater is sewer. It's not a very pleasant topic while we're having lunch, but it's a necessity for every community. That system is stable, and that system is on its way to being repaired. That wastewater plant, ladies and gentlemen, had 6 or 7 major failures in the last year alone. What would it be like? And we're not going to go any further with this topic. What would it be like if a sewer plant shuts down permanently? We don't want to think about the consequences. That system right now is financially stable. We're looking for Standard & Poor's to upgrade the city's bond rating, and we are excited that we are going to reconstruct that plant and get, we're hoping, another 15 or 20 years out of it. As I mentioned, we've hired the new city manager. I'm excited, and Ashley will be talking about it. We just hired a concierge, similar to when you walk into a bank, into our service center. You can have someone not only that greets you, but is able to direct you, someone that's going to be able to work also on specific needs that customers, that word, customers have. I was in sales and marketing for 10 years before I became a teacher. And the bottom line is, in many of those jobs, I got a daily report card. And we know that customer, or the customer, is king. I want to say to you that not only are you the king as the customer, but Oxnard is open for business. Ashley will be talking about that briefly. This year, we applied for the Amazon H2Q headquarters. Amazon is going to build a second headquarters and I believe hire up to 55,000 employees. Sakioka Farms, which has been a real focus of mine in particular because of setting a vision, was the site that was proposed for Amazon. Unfortunately, the city of Oxnard was not selected, but ladies and gentlemen, it gave us great exposure. And we have had amazing responses for Sakioka Farms as a result of that application. Downtown is on a tear. After years of the Great Recession ending our Renaissance downtown, we have exciting news about the downtown. The city is putting together a fiber optic master plan. I'll be talking about that shortly, but that's key for economic development and future job growth in the city. Overall crime, and we can attribute this not only to our chief of police, but to the outstanding police department that we have over the last 3 years. Crime is down overall by 25%. Violent crimes are slightly up. Chief Whitney has a more than determined focus on bringing all of those crime figures down, and perhaps he can share a little bit of that with you also. The city has paved over 100 miles of streets and roads. Many of you have noticed Victoria Avenue, many other streets have new pavement and new highlighting, and that was something that was a #1 priority in addition to public safety by the public. And finally, the challenge of housing and dealing with the homeless problem. We know it's not just a problem in the city of Oxnard, it's a problem all throughout Ventura County. You know that Ventura and Oxnard house or have 2/3 of all the homeless, about 1,800 homeless people in the county of Ventura. 2/3 of them reside in Oxnard and Ventura. We are acting now to deal with that issue. And so for those members of the business community that have concerns about the homeless problem and or those of you that have concerns about what is it that Oxnard's going to do about the homeless problem, we are acting, and we're acting fast. So I'm going to end right now. I'm going to introduce Ashley Golden. She is a dynamic woman, and to be able to do what she's done, ladies and gentlemen, over the last 6 months is just short of a miracle. So I'll introduce now Ashley Golden, please.
Well, thank you for having me here today. I'm first going to actually go over just a little development highlight, let you know what's going on in the city, and then as Mayor Flynn said, I'd like to highlight some of the improvements we've made in our one-stop shop. So we currently are processing 54 applications for about 2,800 units in the city. That's up 700 from what it was in 2015. We have 33 commercial projects, which is up 1 million square feet from what we had in 2015. And we have 11 industrial projects, which is about average of what we had in 2015, but is 20,000 more square feet than when we were processing during that time. So we're still seeing a huge uptick in development, a lot of process, a lot of permits being issued, a lot of review. We update our project list every 3 months. You can always find that online. I put the website there, but if you're ever curious about what's going on, we have a lot of online tools, and the website gives you that. You can sort the data and look at the data. So it's a great resource that we have, but we are busy, and we thank you for bringing those projects to us and choosing Oxnard to make these a reality for our community. So on the one-stop shop, I mean, it's been a priority for the community and for the mayor in particular since 2012. And what that really is just refocusing on the customer, refocusing on all of you. Don't get so hung up in the process, but having us look at how can we serve you better. We did a lot of outreach to the community. Actually, at your State of the City 2016, we did a survey and we asked each of you, what would you like to see? And what we heard from you is online tools and a concierge service. And I'm happy to announce that we have those, and I'll go through those tools in a moment. But the other thing that we also heard was measurables. We want expectations. You hold us accountable. We want to hold you accountable. How quickly are you going to get those permits back? So we've been tracking that since 2016, and we report back on that in a quarterly fashion as well. So on the one-stop shop overall improvements, we have hired a concierge. Starting July 9th, we will have somebody in the service center that can help get people through the permit process. We know it's a difficult process. You want to be running your business. You don't want to be sitting in our lobby wondering where your permit is, getting business licensing. So we've hired this person that will come in and help. We've also added electronic business tax certificates. You no longer, if you're out of the city or you're renewing your license, you don't have to come to the city and wait in our lobby to do that. You can apply for that electronically. We've really enhanced our website. We added actually a whole business resource center webpage to our website, so you can go there and again do business when you want to do business. Do the business from your business or from the comfort of your home, not have to drive into the service center, although it's a beautiful building. Drive into the service center and wait there to be served. You can do a lot of those things online. We're really trying to get into the 21st century and serve you the way that you would like to be served. I know this is shocking, but we didn't accept credit card payments. We now do, so getting into that 21st century model, you can now pay by credit card, not just for utility bills, but for building permits as well as business licensing. We also heard that we needed customer service training, and we did, and we needed cross-training, and we've implemented both of those as well, and that will be an ongoing training that we do. And we created FAQs for all of our different departments, and that was actually a really big learning tool for all the staff as well to learn what each department did so we could serve you better and not have to send you somewhere else to get the answer, that we could get the answer for you. In the planning division, what we heard a lot from the business community too is it takes me too much time and too much money to even make an improvement to my building. I'm just not going to do it. It's too hard to put a roll-up door or to paint my business. You know, I have to come get a permit for you and pay for it and wait. So we created an over-the-counter process to help facilitate that, to get it through quicker so that you do want to make that investment in your property. We also refine what we call the zone clearance process. We issue about 475 of these a year. Anybody that does business in the city has to go through this process. We made it where it's all just within the service center. You get 2 signatures and you can move in that we do. And we created FAQs for all of our different departments, and that was actually a really big learning tool for all the staff as well to learn what each department did so we could serve you better and not have to send you somewhere else to get the answer, that we could get the answer for you. In the planning division, what we heard a lot from the business community too is it takes me too much time and too much money to even make an improvement to my building. I'm just not going to do it. It's too hard to put a roll-up door or to paint my business. You know, I have to come get a permit for you and pay for it and wait. So we created an over-the-counter process to help facilitate that, to get it through quicker so that you do want to make that investment in your property. We also refine what we call the zone clearance process. We issue about 475 of these a year. Anybody that does business in the city has to go through this process. We made it where it's all just within the service center. You get 2 signatures and you can move on. Again, we talked about the online applications, and we created a lot of mapping tools. One of the most common questions we get is, what's my property zone? Can I do this here? So we created a tool online where you can actually go online, find out your zoning yourself, and link up to see if that's allowed or not. And then, like I said, the project list, we update that quarterly, and that's where you can see all those statistics that I was just talking about with the projects. In the building division, again, we've done a lot of online tools. We've started the online permits for the single-family homes, and we're looking to expand that into the business, both industrial and commercial. We added a plan check status. Probably our #1 call we get is, where are my plans? We've allowed you to now go in online and check that yourself. You don't have to make a call. Again, from the comfort of your home or business, you can check that out. Online inspection requests as well, so for a lot of your contractors or other people, again, you don't have to wait and get a busy tone or get a voice message. You can go online and you can request your inspections online. We also automated a few of our other services, a reported building records and property research, again, just wanting you to be able to do the business where you want to do the business. And as we've said, and we're pretty excited about the concierge service starting on the 9th. That was actually approved in 2015, and we are getting that into place this July. It took us a while to find the right person. We got a lot of feedback from the business community, really what they were looking for, and changed the job description to fit those needs that we heard.
We're in the Service Center, which is kind of a one-stop shop building created to serve our residents. You can secure your animal licenses, your business licenses, pay your utility bills, and on our side of the counter, you would submit all plans and paperwork for securing construction permits. So we have a program specific for businesses to help expedite them through our process. We call it the Small Business Assistance Program. Businesses can benefit by having a one-stop shop location where they can take care of the majority of their business needs, whether it's getting a zone clearance and a business license or a construction permit to expand their facilities.
I've been an architect in the county for 40 years. I've been utilizing this program for 20. I tell clients all the time that they're lucky to be in Oxnard if we can utilize this program compared to other agencies. It's just the one-on-one, the relationship we have with the building officials here and the plan checkers. It just makes the process much more productive.
So what that program is, and what I meant to say before I hit the click button on that, was that this is the Small Business Assistance. We hold this every Thursday, 3 hours, 45 minutes. We meet with your development team, your project team. This is perfect for anybody that owns a small business, wants to do what we call a tenant improvement. You can go through this process and get all your plan checkers in one room to review. It really cuts down on the process and time. As you heard John Mueller say, we've had that for 20 years. Not that many people knew that we had that program, and it is a great resource, and we hope that you will all be interested to use these tools that we've put in place. We look forward to hearing more feedback. We have a customer service form. I would love to sit down and talk to you, any of you that have had a good or bad experience through our process. We really want to get better to serve all of you. I had the pleasure of sitting at a table where I was just talking to someone that owns a business for 40 years. They just bought a business. They had a good experience going through our permit process, so that always melts my heart there and makes me feel good that we're doing it. But I know many of you may not have, and I'd welcome opportunities to talk to you so that we can also get better and fix those problems as well. So thank you for your time.
As I mentioned, thank you very much, Ashley. As I mentioned, Chief Whitney was handed this assignment. You can't even imagine, a police chief also being the acting city manager. But Greg Nyhoff, before he left the city, felt that there was nobody that was more eminently qualified to take on this position, and the council agreed with him unanimously. So one of the things I want to say before I introduce Chief Whitney is, he's in both he and Ashley, but he's so successful at what he does. I literally, ladies and gentlemen, thank him every day. Chief Whitney, thank you for not running for mayor of the city of Oxnard. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Whitney.
Now you guys know the inside story on why I'm walking around all week with a big smile on my face. So, Nancy asked if I would speak for about 10 minutes on lessons learned while I've been in this assignment. And some of you have heard me speak a lot, and some people are probably getting ready to head for the exits. But not that I'm not a dynamic speaker, but 10 minutes, it's hard to get it all in. So a quick vote. We could you guys could listen to me talk about lessons learned, or I could roast Tom Cady for 10 minutes. How many people want the roast? Tom, we're going to roast you. I'm just joking. Where's the clicker at, Ashley? So I always try to put structure to things. Lessons learned, it's hard. I didn't want just a like kind of random thing, so I put a little structure to it. I think as a boss, police chief, city manager, you have to know what your principles are, what you stand for. For me, I'm always going to provide good service to our residents. I'm always going to work hard. I'm always going to be honest. Most people appreciate that. Not everybody wants to hear that all the time, though. But some of my principles. The most frustrating thing for me in the 2 assignments, and I've talked to several people about this, and it's kind of the second, third, and fourth check marks there. Time management. I'm obsessive about how I manage my time as a chief, and the reality is when I was younger, I thought as you move up in rank, you actually have more you control your calendar more, and it's the exact opposite. So hard to manage my time. And the reality is at the police department, I have structure and I have the infrastructure. Infrastructure there doesn't mean the capital infrastructure, it means the people, the right people. The police department, I have 2 assistant chiefs that are super capable, an admin assistant, 8 commanders, 5 civilian managers. I have infrastructure that allows me some time to be a bit of a visionary, to look at strategy, to look at things from a high level. And the reality is, and part of it was doing 2 jobs, but the reality is the city manager's office, that structure does not exist. The reality is the city of Oxnard, the public works department, that structure does not exist. The reality is within the finance department, that structure does not exist. We have many departments in the city that are very good, very capable, the operations side of it. I would stack our police department, our fire department, our recreation, our library, may not get it as quickly, but our development services against any other city. May not have all the services, we may not be able to do it in a timely manner, but the structure is there. Unfortunately, and this has been decades of lack of investment, lack of training, too much leadership turnover, the structure doesn't exist in all of the departments within the city. It is what it is. Just going down the list a little bit, for a police chief, particularly for a city manager, being accessible, there's absolutely there's no substitute for being accessible. And I tell my wife, I told her this when I became the chief, and the same applies for city manager. I'm making different sacrifices now than I did as a line level officer. I don't necessarily make the same physical sacrifices. I don't have to work graveyard shifts, but if I'm going to be accessible, it means that I'm going to be at places when people want me to be there. When people usually don't give me the invite at lunch, this is an easy one. If you guys have lunch meetings, I'll be there every time, and my wife will thank you for it. But most of them, the reality is, are the end of the day and on the weekends. Now, you guys know our council meetings on Tuesday went till 11 p.m. 11 a.m. would be nice. This is not the Board of Supervisors. 11 p.m. And then we start. I just said that because Supervisor Long left. Then we start right back up at 8 a.m. on Wednesday morning. It's just those sacrifices. It's not just the police chief. It's every director that's here. And the directors are sitting at the table. They deserve some recognition. I know we're pressed for time. Communicate with employees and our residents. In some ways, the less accessible you are, the more you have to communicate, over-communicate. And there are certain things. I had coffee with Ashley and the 2 assistant chiefs, Eric and Jason, yesterday, and they all 3 of them said, "We know what you're going to say." They have a pool on what phrases I'm going to say. And there's we used to say at the police department, 21st century policing. It's kind of a nod to, hey, it's a very slight nod to let's move forward, let's get modern. I brought that to the city manager's office, 21st century business model. There are several areas where we need a 21st century business model. We had an agreement with the harbor. It was a 50-year agreement. It just expired in 2015. We need a 21st century agreement there. Our Performing Arts Center, we're essentially kind of nursing along a 20-year agreement. We need a 21st century agreement there. So when I say these terms, I say it for a reason. The first, Stacy, you know this, you're in advertising. How many times do you have to say something before like it sinks in, right? 7 times? I'm going to say it at least 7 times tonight, because every time I say it, I get a cup of coffee. Growing the pie. We need to grow the pie in the city. Those of you that are paying attention to our budget process, we had $7.3 million a gap that we had to close. $1.5 million in revenue increases, the rest were cuts. In city government, it's so hard to raise revenues, we generally focus on cuts. Cuts. We need to increase the size of the pie. So oftentimes we look at it, well, what's the easiest way? You increase the rates, right? Whether it's property taxes, sales taxes. You guys know, I'm not going to get a whole lot of clapping for that. But there's another way. You expand the base, and that's what you guys do for us. You expand the base, and so we have to be good partners to make sure that happens. Not going to be able to go into too many of these in detail. I'm going to talk about managing the culture on the next slide. I think being a good boss is like being a good parent. You have high expectations. My kids, they know I love them to death, but they know the expectation is you're getting all A's. It's the same thing in the city. We're getting all A's. If you stumble, we'll figure out how to make it up. I'm not going to judge you, but we have high expectations. It's the same in the city. Responsibility and ownership within the police department, whether it's pursuits, whether it's use of force, there's not a lot of margin for error. So everybody takes ownership, from the supervisor to the manager to the assistant chief to the chief. That's how you change the culture, is everybody takes ownership. Pride in our work. If I'm not proud as the chief and I'm not out there talking and defending, I will defend our police officers and I will defend our public works employees and our firefighters. I'll do that every day of the week. If we make a mistake, we'll fix it, we'll correct it. But the way I can do that with a straight face is I know that my time is up. Holy smokes. Okay, I'm going to just move along. Focus on priorities. Focus on priorities, especially when you have limited resources. You got to focus on the priorities. And here's another one of my cups of coffee I'm going to get. You got to get every oar in the water. Everybody's got to be working, right? And then all the oars have to be rowing together. That's the other cup of coffee I got. That's the priorities. And then the fundamentals. For Tom Cady, I cannot give a speech without talking about football. Football, it's all about blocking and tackling, right, Tom? That's the fundamentals. We have to get very, very good at the fundamentals. That's how we get good at the important things, the hard things. Handling difficult tasks. We have things pop up like the harbor, this challenge at the harbor. It's something new. It's something we're not necessarily good at. But if we're good at the fundamentals, we break it down. You put one person in charge, you break it down, you figure out what the variables are. And the mayor was a teacher. Once you figure out all the variables, what is left? It's the answer. The answer is left. So the fundamentals, my guys hear me talk about that all the time. And then the perspective. I won't go over these for time, but we're always looking. Are you the person that sees the adversity or you see the opportunity? And we all know in business, you guys know in particular, you can flip anything. Anything turns into an opportunity. You can spin anything. We cannot avoid problems. We got to bring them to light. There's so much. You guys know that. Pay attention to Tuesday nights. There's so much distraction, so much noise. Do you want an employee at any level, whether it's a line level, the mid-manager, or the CEO of the city, you got to have that person focused. You cannot be distracted. Competitive advantages. Take out the name. If I tell you, hey, you want to live in a coastal city in Southern California, it's close to Los Angeles, close to Santa Barbara. It's got its own university, Deepwater Port, has the potential to be a smart city. Like, who would say no to that? We sometimes, especially on Tuesday nights, and it's what we do, we're problem solvers. It means we focus on the negatives too much. We do not focus, there's not enough focus on the positives. We cannot forget our competitive advantages that we have in Oxnard. The mayor is going to talk about pension costs. It is the single biggest threat to cities, and I will say, I've changed that word sustainability and stability. I've gone back and forth on that. I would say for Oxnard, it's stability. For other cities, it's sustainability. 4 cities went bankrupt in the state of California in 2009. The next time we hit a recession, I guarantee you it's going to be more cities, because the pension problem keeps getting worse every single year. It's almost like the problem is so big, nobody wants to deal with it themselves. They want somebody else to run with it. Ensuring fiscal stability. The biggest part is you recognize the problem. The pension issue is our biggest problem. It's the biggest problem for almost every city. So recognizing it, and then having a long-term perspective, trying to figure out how to grow the pie, right? Eric, we're going to grow the pie. That's the new resources. Leveraging our funding resources. That means we have to look for regionalization. There's plenty of places for regionalization. If we're oftentimes people say, and I'm like a finance guy. My business, my degree is finance and accounting. I'm a finance guy. I'm always looking to cut costs. But I hear it a lot of times. Well, you just got to figure out how to be more efficient. Just got to be more efficient. To me, that's like saying, in Oxnard's families, they're on the low end when you compare us to other cities in the county. Per capita income. It's like going to a family that makes $35,000 or $40,000 a year and say, if you were just more efficient with your money, if you just figure out how to spend your money more, you'd be in a much better position. All of your problems will go away. There's only so much more efficiencies we can have. So one of our common sayings in Oxnard, if you're on a budget, are you going to eat hamburger or are you going to eat filet mignon? It's part of the communication. I will always say, though, whether we cut 5%, which we did, we cut 13.5 employees, $7 million, our employees are always going to be committed to this spirit of public service. This is why we do the job. They are our future. They are resilient. Every investment we make is for them. We owe that to them. And I just wanted to say, look at the smiles on everybody's faces. This is what everybody looks like when they get off of a helicopter, because like, woo, we're safe. That was after the ride. Thank you, Amy, for setting that up. We're always going to be good partners with the chamber. I get the opportunity to pass it back to the mayor. I ate into his time a little bit. I apologize for that. I always appreciate the mayor's high energy, always has good ideas, and he's here for Oxnard. He loves Oxnard. He loves you guys, so thank you.
Wow, that's encouraging. I don't think I need to speak. Thank you very much, Scott. So, the theme today, and you've already heard part of that theme that was outlined by both Ashley and Scott, is how can we sustain government? How can it be sustainable when consistently the demand for services far exceeds the resources? The public's demand for service is going up, but their willingness to pay for it is going down. And we saw that just recently here in the city of Oxnard. We raised our sewer rate by $23 a month per household over 5 years. And the last 3 years, our organization was consumed by just the wastewater plant. Consumed. So forget all the other priorities, forget quality of life, forget economic development, forget everything else. It's all about that $23 a month increase. But nobody was told it was a $23 a month increase. All kinds of figures were thrown out there. But the bottom line is as the recall election just happened here in the city of Oxnard illustrates, right? People want more, but their willingness to pay for it is not going up, it's going down. And I consistently hear that when I go door to door, whether it's campaign time or not. When I go door to door, people are saying, Mayor, when is the rate going to go down? I'm trying to make ends meet. I can't afford these bills any longer. So how are we going to sustain that? And that's the major challenge that we face in government. And at the same time, how do we grow businesses in the city of Oxnard? So one of the things that I, as mayor, felt very strongly about is that just like business, and unlike, say, many people that have a career in public service, I've worked in the private sector and I've worked in sales and marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, I've even sold used cars, okay? So I know what it means to, get a daily report card. When you go in the back room in a car lot, there's a board up there. When you're a realtor, there's a board up there. How many listings do we have? You know, how many sales do we have? So I understand that. But the fact of the matter is that if we don't change the way we do business, right? Just like you, if you don't foresee what's going to happen in your business, you're going to get swept up by somebody else. Everybody in this room knows that and understands that. So what we've done is we're going to be one of 180 communities in the city, in the United States of America that are going to be implementing over the next 3 to 4 years priority-based budgeting. What is priority-based budgeting? Priority-based budgeting, as you could see from this illustration here, it allows the council to focus on what's most important. Because, you know, special interests, that word special interest, they tend to have their way quite often in government. We know there's a variety of reasons for that. But the fact of the matter is it comes down to the council establishing a strategic plan, and we have one. Organizational effectiveness, we have 4 items. Organizational effectiveness, economic development, quality of life, and infrastructure and natural resources. Those are our 4 top priorities. How, when it comes to $135 million general fund budget and overall a $430 million budget, when we look at the whole picture, how do you prioritize how that money is going to be spent? Are you going to take away from parks and add another police officer? Or are you going to add 2 firefighters and take away from a police officer? Those are the decisions that priority-based budgeting allows. It allows the council to really focus on the priorities. We know that in every community, public safety is the #1 priority. That should and will not change. Oxnard spends, of that $135 million, 2/3 of its budget on public safety. And there's a 3-to-1 ratio on police versus fire. In other communities, it's 2-to-1. That's how much we value public safety. So any talk in Oxnard, this city council is not supportive of public safety, nor is it a top priority. Think again, 2/3 of the budget. 66% of our budget is spent on public safety. Neighboring Ventura, 52% as a percentage of our budget. So when public safety, as in every community, takes the lion's share of the pie, and I hate to compare it to this, but on the federal level, ladies and gentlemen, there's over a $4 trillion budget. The federal budget, $4 trillion a year. Do you know that the Congress of the United States only has discretionary authority over $1.2 trillion? That the other, right, $2.8 trillion, they're all entitlements. Social Security, Medicare, and it goes on and on and on and on. And so when you're trying to get your act together and you're trying to prioritize, the council has to be able to focus on what is most important. And priority-based budgeting, ladies and gentlemen, has been very successful, especially in places like Boulder, Colorado. And what they've been able to do is take the lowest priorities and refocus on what is most important in the community. And later I'll be talking about it because you see all these, what I had David back here who's a genius with this, what I had David do is make the top priorities the largest and then shrink them down, right? We start with public safety. You have to have water, right, before there's streets, right? So, and then you go into streets and you go into recreation, but then you see economic development. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm so excited about with priority-based budgeting is it's going to allow us once and for all to make economic development in the city of Oxnard one of the top priorities. Today, it is one of the lowest priorities in the city of Oxnard, and it's because the dollars are so scarce. So what Chief Whitney just touched on is the pension issue. Let me, you know, I'm a teacher, and I like really cutting to the chase so that people walk out of here really understanding what the challenge here is. Ladies and gentlemen, any and every public pension is supposed to pay for itself. What does that mean? That means that employees and employers contribute about 30% of all the revenue for pensions. The other 70%, where does that come from? The stock market. If the stock market does well, as it did around 2000, 2001, pensions in the state of California were 125%. They were fully funded. And thank goodness, while other communities throughout California said, well, it's 125% funded, we're going to stop paying into the system. Oxnard kept paying into the system. So despite the fact that it's an enormous challenge for us, imagine other communities where it's even more of a challenge. The city of Oakland had to borrow $1 billion just to temporarily bail themselves out to make their minimum payments to their employees that have retired. And what we see right here in the city of Oxnard is that over time, look at the graph as it goes over time, the next 15 to 20 years, that is going to be the major challenge, because Governor Brown and the California State Legislature in 2013 passed PEPRA, Public Employee Pension Reform Act. And basically, it raised the retirement age, it lowered the amount of money that people get, it capped out the salaries, it took spiking away, it did so many things. But we have classic employees who, for the next 15 to 20 years, will be retiring. It's those that we have the major challenge with. Today, 9.6% of Oxnard's budget, general fund budget of $135 million, 9.6% is going towards pensions. In 5 years, we're going to have to come up with $50 million. Our city, just Oxnard, $50 million, because what the retirement system is saying is whatever your unfunded liability is for your portion of your employees that are retired and are going to be retiring, you got to cough up that money. In the next 10 years, the percentage of our budget that will go just for pensions will grow from 10% to 20%. 1/5 of our budget will go just to pensions. And thank God, we're one of a very small amount of communities. We have a property tax that finances or funds public safety. So people on their property tax bill pay a small portion towards public safety retirement. Imagine if Oxnard didn't have that. We would be paying 30% of our budget just towards pensions. So what are the choices? I got it narrowed down here. You could borrow money like Oakland did. Oakland had to. They borrowed $1 billion. That was just to get them through. Number two, ask employees to pay more. When Greg Nyhoff was hired as city manager, I insisted, you're going to pay your 8% towards your pension. And then he went and asked the managers to start paying their share towards the pension. And then we had to deal with public safety and other unions to get them to start contributing towards their pensions, because in previous labor negotiations, bargaining units did not accept salary increases, but instead the city made their contributions towards retirement. My goal was, and realizing that as one member of the council, and you got to have a lot of courage to do this, and I'm not going to take the credit for it, because none of this would have happened unless others agreed that if you don't get this problem under control, it will eat you alive. The city of Vallejo, where Greg Nyhoff just went as city manager, I don't know what he sees in going to cities that just recovered from bankruptcy. They had 140 police officers in 2008. By 2010, 70 police officers. They laid off half the police department. They just emerged from bankruptcy a couple years ago. It cost that city, that's half the size of Oxnard and has half of Oxnard's budget, it cost that city $15 million just to emerge out of bankruptcy. Some pensions were cut, public safety was cut, it goes on and on and on. So if public officials don't have the courage, and I'm telling you, it takes a lot of courage, because when people start talking about this, it makes people uncomfortable. But I determined for myself, at least one member of the city council, that either you're going to do something that's right and is going to benefit the community over the long term, or you're not. And if you're not going to do what's right, get out. Get out of public office. It's not about being the mayor. It's not about fame, or it's about getting things done. Do the job and get out. So I'm happy to say that we have been able to find a balance, but we have challenges here in the future. Are we going to cut back our services when it goes from 10% of our budget to 20? Right? 10 to 20%. Are we going to cut services? Are we going to borrow money? I'm not an advocate of borrowing money for this. Are we going to cut services? Or, most importantly, how can we grow revenue? And that's why priority-based budgeting is so important, to refocus on economic development. We just had a recall election here in the city of Oxnard. All 4 members of the council that were subject to the recall, including myself, and I want to thank the chamber for opposing the recall. It was over a $23 a month increase of the sewer rate. And ladies and gentlemen, it was a real deal. The whole council was going to be knocked out over this rate increase. And the bottom line is it makes us think today. It makes us think today, how are we going to provide water? That's the next challenge that we have. We have a recycled water plant that some of you have heard me say this before, that takes sewer water and turns it into a glass of water that you can drink. I know that sounds unbelievable, but we've done that here in the city of Oxnard, right? Anthony Emmert here, no longer with the city of Oxnard. He had a lot to do with that, our previous public works director. Unbelievable. We take sewer water and we turn it into drinking water. But the state of California will not allow that water to be directly consumed by you. A lot of people saying, thank God for that, right? We have to inject it in underground wells, let it stay there 3 to 6 months, or we sell it to farmers, which is what we're doing, or water landscaping. But these water challenges, water is becoming ever more scarce. And remember, scarcity is a permanent situation. It's not like California is all of a sudden going to turn into a tropical place, right? With tons of rainfall, like in Hawaii. It is permanent. So how are we going to provide these services if a $23 a month increase over 5 years is going to basically cause a revolution? Well, one of the things we need to think about is, how can we deliver these services more effectively? And I would argue, and this is another thing that priority-based budgeting allows, it gets people to start thinking in terms of regions. You know what cities think? Cities always think they do things the best. We have the best police, we have the best fire, we have the best public works, etc. Well, the fact of the matter is that economy of scale, and everybody in this room understands that word, economy of scale. When you partner with other agencies, right, you're going to be able to negotiate better contracts, you're going to be able to negotiate for those large capital expenses in a more effective way. The bottom line is, we might need to consider a municipal utilities district. Get the city of Oxnard out of the utilities business. Get every city in the western county to unite on water, sewer, and trash. We have a trash facility that many communities use and recycle. Our water facility and sewer facilities. Other cities are already partnering with us. We need to expand that, because if we don't, and if we try to go, imagine a $50 a month increase for water. I didn't say that. A $50 a month increase? Will I be here? I was just told I have 5 minutes. Here's what's exciting. If we don't grow the pie, if we don't expand economic opportunities in the city of Oxnard, right, we're going to get left behind. So downtown development, our economic development strategy up until now has been focused on the downtown. Why? And this is an amazing rendering. If anybody has ever gone down Oxnard Boulevard and seen, the 3rd Street Bridge there, imagine if that Oxnard sign's there, and right there to the right where it says Oyster Room, right, that's an auto mechanic store right now. Doesn't look particularly nice, the whole area, won't single out any one business, but imagine Oxnard and its revitalization and growing the economic pie by focusing on the downtown. The downtown is one of several urban villages. Ladies and gentlemen, Oxnard does not have farmland left to expand. The SOAR initiative draws a donut around cities, and you have to expand within the city's borders, right? So we have urban villages, and the downtown is one of those urban villages. I'll be talking about that quickly, and also the property like is East Village, and then ending with Sakioka Farms. So these are the three properties that the city of Oxnard just put in a bid to purchase, and the state of California has to approve it. One is the Social Security building, the old Social Security building. The other is a laundromat. The other is a former furniture store. We want to take these areas and we want to transform them into mixed-use developments. 5 stories, 6 stories high, retail development below. Can you imagine the Social Security building? If you've ever seen it, it's very outdated. It's gone and it's replaced with this building right now. That's what we want to see. Let's talk about the next opportunity. Right next to St. John's Hospital. And you see that yellow area there on the map? That's what I call the medical corridor. Rose Avenue to Rice Avenue along Gonzales Road. That's one of the largest medical corridors anywhere in Ventura County, arguably anywhere in the Tri-Counties. Right next to that property, you see the green. That property right now is slated for development. It's one of the last agricultural parcels left in the city. But what should the vision be? The vision should be the Oxnard Union High School District would like to build a high school there. What is it going to take? What is it going to take to get the doctors, the nurses, and the high disposable incomes of those people that work in that medical corridor to move there? Well, not only does it have to be a nice development, but that high school, I would suggest, needs to be a magnet school. The first magnet school on the Oxnard Plain is going to be built at River Park. It's being built right now. It's going to be a STEAM academy: science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And I would argue, if the Oxnard Union High School District were to build a magnet school, or half of it a magnet school at this site, it will attract those people in this large medical corridor to live right in the city of Oxnard, and those high disposable incomes are going to recirculate the multiplier effect in the city of Oxnard. That money is going to be spent in our downtown, not in neighboring downtowns. What I'm also excited to say is that we're moving in a direction of a smart city. One of the things I've promoted since being elected as mayor are 21st century jobs. The chief talked about 21st century government, 21st century plans, right? A model. Well, a smart city, ladies and gentlemen, begins with fiber optic cable. You see the map in front of you? We have already laid 15.5 miles of fiber optic cable in the city of Oxnard to manage traffic. It's called the Intelligent Traffic System. But now we're kicking it up a notch, as Emerald Lagasse would say, and we're going to take that fiber optic cable, and we're going to be able to create a network with a new fiber optic master plan that I'm hoping is going to attract medical research, high-tech, and biotech companies to the city of Oxnard. And we already have a big part of that job. We have $10 million already invested in that. That's really exciting. So these possibilities for Oxnard all surround economic development. And as mayor, my goal for the next 2 years, and I'm being awfully presumptuous because in November there is an election, is to be exclusively focused on economic development. Nancy Lindholm once said to the city council, members of the city council and Mr. Mayor, if every decision you make isn't generating a job, then I would question its effectiveness. I would question what you're doing. Well, my focus is going to be exclusively economic development. And I want to say, to end, one of the most exciting things that we have in the city of Oxnard is Sakioka Farms, which would have been the site for the Amazon headquarters had Amazon decided on Oxnard. But I have never and will never give up on that vision of what could be at Sakioka Farms. And this visionary building, which I've shown on every State of the City address, this building, ladies and gentlemen, only serves to capture people's imagination. If you think big and if you act big, it will happen. Ladies and gentlemen, Oxnard is moving. We're moving quickly. And I'll ask you, as I end today, and I want to really thank all the staff that helped me, Carrie in the back, Julio, Michael, David, and Luis, and the staff that helped me on this presentation. Give them a round of applause, can you please? And if what you just heard from Chief Whitney, from Ashley, and myself isn't good news, at a minimum, it's a reason to believe in Oxnard. Thank you very much.